Among the fake concern by Republican politicians over teachers grooming children, allegedly grooming children, just by telling them that gay people actually exist, as well as their safety, caring about kids' safety in the wake of mass shootings like Uvalde, conservatives in Ohio recently passed two bills. One would allow teachers to carry guns in schools, and another that literally mandates genital inspections for trans athletes. The latter bill being tucked into another unrelated piece of legislation, because of course, and it's called the Save Women's Sports Act. And it was added inside of the substitute House Bill 151 that would require schools and universities to designate separate single-sex teams in sports for each sex and bans anyone of the male sex to participate in any women's sports in schools or interscholastic sports. Also, very important in this sub HB 151 also includes a line that requires transgender person or participant whose sex is disputed to prove their sex with a signed physician statement, including information about their internal and external reproductive anatomy, testosterone levels, and an analysis of their genetic makeup. That amendment was added by Republican Representative Jenna Powell moments before the bill had passed. So here we are in Ohio, basically, and they are basically mandating that that the state do genital checks of children. Farron, what are your thoughts?
You know, the state of Ohio has such a horrendous record when it actually comes to things like sexual abuse of students. I mean, the U.S. gymnastics, Jim Jordan, Ohio State University. I mean, this state has already proven that they actually don't care about taking care of athletes, you know, male or female. They don't care about sexual assault. They don't care about anything except for, of course, gaining political points. Now, this is the kind of program here, these genital inspections, that is absolutely going to be abused. I mean, it's a massive violation of privacy. We all know that, you know, that's obvious, but the abuse that's going to come as a result of that is beyond imaginable at this point. And we're going to have a lot of people humiliated. And it's humiliation, obviously, if we're talking about school children, they're not going to live down. You know, everybody's going to know that, oh my God, Susie got pulled in for a genital inspection. This is going to ruin people's lives. Not only that, but it's addressing an issue that's not an actual issue. Let's never forget that either. You know, this is not a problem. It's a problem that they created in their minds and then crafted legislation to deal with something that doesn't really matter to anybody. I mean, this doesn't affect your life. This doesn't affect your job. It doesn't affect your pocketbook. You know, whether or not you can feed your family or get health care, those are real problems. No, we want to see your kids' junk, so drop your pants, according to this new legislation.
Yeah, you're right. It is absolutely a solution in search of a problem. And again, I touched on this during the intro, where you have all these Republicans that are going after public school teachers and saying that they're groomers, that they're grooming children, And these same politicians and same people that are going after these teachers for, you know, saying things like, oh, you know, I'm LGBT or I'm a trans person or whatever, they're the ones that are mandating genital checks. I mean, that's insane. Insane that we have this. And again, you know, you mentioned the embarrassment aspect. Another great point. Yeah, you have, you know, some women, cis women, right, who might be mistaken as a trans person. We do see that. And of course, that is going to be another unintended victim, right? Because remember, Republicans are intending for trans people to be victimized. But in this case, now they're going to have cis women, some certain cis women that like play sports, might be super tall or whatever, that are going to be put into this. And yes, it is absolutely going to be devastating to them, as well as being devastated to trans people. And it's just going to continue to further other people that are already suffering through so much social stigmatization, and as well as these, horrible laws that are being passed in order to really go against them. It's just really horrible to see. It's just gross.
I think back just a couple of weeks when the Department of Homeland Security's Disinformation Board was announced, which was a stupid idea to begin with. I was totally against that. But all the Republicans freaked out and said, oh, my God, it's literally 1984. And then we have this same party that says, you know what? You know what we need? Don't you guys want to see these kids' genitals? How about we pass a law that gives us the authority to look in somebody's pants? But, God forbid, people try to fight misinformation.
Right.
I mean, they freak out over that. They don't want the government slapping this is fake news label on anything, which honestly, I don't either. I think that is absolutely going to be abused. But then they turn around and have no problem saying, show me what you're packing. I mean, that's nuts. I don't mean that as a pun either. I wish I had chosen my words better.
Yeah.
This is absurd. It's obscene. It's just, I struggle to wrap my head around it and to come up with the words because I'm so angry about it. And I think about what would happen, if it were my kids. If I found out that my kid was having their anything questioned or anything looked at by somebody else, I know what I would do, but I cannot say out loud what would happen to the people that did that.
Exactly. And it's ironic too. They want to see, using your phrasing, right? They want to see what the kids are packing. But at the same time, when it comes to gun owners, speaking of the other bill that was also passed that people focused on, they want to make sure that they don't know that people are packing guns, especially teachers, right? And so arm everyone, but also do super invasive genital inspections in schools. I mean, this is incredibly dystopian.
Well, if you're going to be doing the genital inspections, the teachers need to have the guns so they can go, show me your genitals right now. Show me what you've got. But no, for real, look, my wife is an educator, right? She is a teacher. And I have to tell this story, and I'm going to, not name names. I don't even know most of the names. But a couple years ago, she had a student that was probably about a third her size. The student tried to get out of the school. My wife, being the teacher of this unit with these children that are, behavioral problems, had to go try to get the student back. And so it's in the back of the school where there's this drainage ditch that's filled with rocks. Again, this student, this young girl who is about a third my wife's size, ends up kicking her in the knee, knocking her down this little hill. My wife has permanent knee damage. Like, she'll never get better.
Ow.
And again, this was a tiny grade school girl that did this to her. Now, if my wife had had a gun at the point where she is laying on the ground, that student could have easily snatched it away from her.
Right.
And I use that story as an example of how easy it is for some students, regardless of size, to overpower teachers. And you want to tell us that these teachers should have weapons? I mean, this is absurd. We've had reports of the few schools where they've done this, of teachers leaving guns in the bathroom, leaving the drawer with the gun unlocked. This is a school shooting in the making. You take a student that maybe wants to do something like that, but otherwise couldn't get their hands on a weapon, you're basically handing it to them at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a terrible, terrible idea. What are they doing in Ohio? I mean, let me get back to a point that you made way back when it comes to potential abuse. It just makes me think of there were a couple of coaches. I forget the name, but it was a trial in my home state of Michigan where there was a coach that had abused a lot of young girls, teens, for years and years and years. Was it Sandusky? I think it was Jerry. It might have been Jerry Sandusky. But I'm not entirely sure. But that was
Sandusky was Penn State. This is
okay.
Are you talking about the doctor?
Yeah. Okay. It was the doctor. It was the doctor.
Yeah. And that was, with the Olympic team too. A
Yes.
lot of those young women. I mean, well, I mean, they were young girls when a lot of this happened too, and that's what happens, because of course
Nasser.
once we Nasser, once we pass these laws, we don't ever really vet the people that we put in charge of them. And just like with prisons, we don't really vet who becomes a prison guard, and we pay them these, substandard wages, so it only attracts people that are desperate. And then we end up with abuse. It's abuse all across the board. I mean, no matter where you're looking, whether it's schools, correctional facilities, colleges, everywhere, we pick horrible people to oversee horrible laws, and it always leads to abuse. I mean, just almost every time. And that's what we're setting ourselves up for here.
Exactly. And of course, you're seeing some of the most horrible people pass even more horrible laws to allow more horrible abuse. And so, unfortunately, the cycle continues. And I'm not sure what else to say. I don't think there's anything good or promising that you can pull from this at all. It's just all bad. Ohio, what the hell?
It really is, and there's not a whole lot else to add to this other than hopefully, I don't even know if you can trust the courts anymore, but maybe the courts are going to strike all this down and it goes away. But I have no faith in that anymore. Nothing matters in the court system. Nothing matters in state legislatures. It's a free for all. You can do whatever the hell you want, and there's nobody that's going to stop you at this point. Maybe the voters vote harder, folks. I guess that's what you got to do this year.
Yeah. Like, one of these days we're going to have a discussion on that as well, and the Democratic Party and their disastrous plans. But we'll save that for the next time that you're on the show.